fiddling around with it, experimenting with it, and you're feeling very clumsy with it, but you keep going back to it, and each time you refine it a little bit more, and over, and now it seems a very natural part of the thinking, and there's no way that I can separate my planning now from what I've learned by responsive design. But it also highlights the point that we must remember that our children are learning in phases, and to allow that to happen, and to just to keep unfolding.
So somehow that brought out that putting on time, specifically naming time and putting it on a strip, helped you remember and clarify that clumsiness, but now everything has become very integrated. Is that?
It's becoming more integrated, all right? I'm still working on that. I wouldn't say that I'm to the refined point yet, but it's just definitely becoming a part of who I am as I think about lesson planning, lesson designing.
Somebody else build on Dawn or take some direction?
I wanted to make this.
The Mobius?
Yes, I kept wanting to do that because I thought that's what we were going to do. But I realized having it on the timeline that it had me actually think in terms of here's where I was introduced, then there was here, then there was here, then there was here. So there was something about physically writing that had me then translate that into my brain and think about it. But then I just wanted to connect it because I feel like that's the responsive design for me is over and over again. Just, I'm responding, I just keep responding.
So the
building.
You thought you were heading into a loop, but putting it on the strip, I think you're saying it encouraged you to sequence
Yes.
and think about
Yes.
it in terms of
Yes.
what happens first and next. But nonetheless, it seems, as Dawn was saying, there's a connectedness.
Yes.
Because that seems so embedded in the process.
Mm-hmm.
So something else that floated?
I think it's become a naming process. You know, for those of us who started way back years before in the ISI, it was all part of this and just little baby steps toward where we're continuing now. But somewhere along the way, it became named. And so now we can talk about it with a name rather than this thing.
So did putting it on the strip sort of brought that out to you? I have a name. At some point I have a name.
Right.
And that became sort of answered that there was now a name and at one time there wasn't and then there is. So there was a sort of...
But it was all building toward this naming thing.
Before and after and a building. That's what you got from it. Okay, somebody else want to add anything? What did it do for you, representing it on this timeline?
Well, it was like, you know, when your parents put you in the door frame and measure your height every birthday or whatever, you know what I mean? It's like, so it was like, if you would ask me when I walked in the door if I was a different teacher from a year ago, I probably would have said, no, I'm the same guy or whatever. But after writing it down and like looking at it, then I think, wow, from a year ago when I first met the Piasol group, you know, to now, I have changed. But there has been like a measurable, I think, change.
So it gave you a sort of a benchmark, something to measure against, a moment to say, back to that before and after idea.
And like to play off of what Dawn said, like I wrote on here, I'm not sure if I can ever unknow this. You know, like once you learn something, you can't unlearn it. You know.
Yeah, Debbie and then Mary.
Like he mentioned how your growth chart, some years you might have a little bit, and some it's like, oh my gosh, I really grew a lot. You don't realize it till you see that measured out. That it doesn't, it's not even sequential, it's a little bit, sometimes having to go back to one chunk, it's kind of scaffolded, and then it becomes clearer as you go.
Okay, Anya?
Doing this and then sharing out, so thank you, Anne, for making me stop. Doing this and then sharing out really made me think about how much I don't want to wish my life away, but I would love to see this next year, where I am on my timeline, because I just feel like, for me, it has been so rushed, because I want to be where everyone else is in terms of my teaching, and but I feel like, okay, so I did my first IMP in June, and then I realized what responsive design was, and then I had to present it to my faculty a week ago. Like, it has been so fast forward to me, and I'm still grappling with that, but I'm supposed to be failing because then I'm learning more, and I'm able to tweak and make it better and make it better and make it better. But I still feel like I have gone in fast forward, and it's freaking me out a little.
You have that sense of the rapid forward movement, that rush of a rapid forward movement, but it does make you think, okay, there will be a future, perhaps when it's clearer. Okay, let's now, Ralph, are you going to take this over or continue?
Oh, you're doing quite nicely. You can
Okay.
continue.
In that case, what we're going to do